Alright, so this is the exercise portion of episode 1, and we will use this kind of simple drawing to train our ability to notice action line and harmony. I happen to use portraits for this exercise, but you can use figures just as well, or even still objects like cars or trees or anything like that. So the idea is we want to draw it really simply without thinking too much about it, and just try to use as simple lines as possible to capture the major rhythm and proportion of the subject. And to help us not overthink it and get lost in details, I've made it so that you want to do these exercises in about 30 seconds for each drawing. This way, you will not be able to get lost in details and have your mind kind of focused on the things that are not important at this stage. So let's download a whole bunch of references. I just googled portrait drawing reference, and you can use any program that lets you do a slideshow and set it to something like 30 seconds. You can set it even shorter if you like, but I wouldn't recommend going any longer than that, because then you would risk putting effort into details when you shouldn't. So here we go. I will try to show you how I do these in real time, and these are all around 30 seconds. If you've never done this kind of exercises before, then it could feel a little bit strange or maybe challenging or difficult, which it definitely was for me when I first started doing it. That's good if you feel that way, because whenever you feel strange or challenged by a task, it probably means your brain is being forced to think and act differently, which means you will most likely end up learning something at the end of it. So if this feels hard or weird, then congratulations, you are learning. So what I do is, before I start drawing, I try to put my intention on using as few lines as possible to try to capture the major proportions, the sense of movement, and any energy that the subject is expressing. So in the case of portrait drawings, you will know that you have succeeded if you have very few lines and the drawing still manages to look like the person in the reference photo and to have a kind of similar attitude or expression to that person. So you set your intention of capturing the action lines and having a kind of sense of harmony with the drawing before you start, and maybe look at some examples. But once you do start drawing, because it is so short, you'll not have time to consciously calculate everything. You just have time to let your hand move by itself and let your subconscious take over. And in my case, I've done probably thousands of these drawings, and maybe the first few thousand were nothing I would put on my fridge, let's just say. They can be really weird looking just because it's not something you're used to doing. And that is perfectly fine, because it doesn't actually matter if you end up with a beautiful drawing at the end of it, as long as you have set the intention to improve your understanding of action lines and harmony, and you go through this process and pay attention to what you're doing. Those two things together, the intention and the attention, will result in your improvement, in your learning, and in your growth as an artist. So just go through it and smile, relax, have fun, and enjoy in this knowledge that you're improving your craft. As we go through these last few demos, I will just tell you a little bit about how we plan to do this series. So we have a Facebook group and a DeviantArt journal where we are calling for submissions. So anyone can submit their artwork to be reviewed by us. And Although we can't get to all of them, I'll try to find ones that can serve as a good example for me to demonstrate a particular art principle. So go ahead and submit your work and include that short description to tell us what you're going for, what is it you're trying to express or achieve. And if you feel like, you can also include some references or things that inspire you, images or words or whatever it is, and put it in there. It can all help us to make this episode more helpful to you. So we would really like to make this for the people that follow us and support us, so that it's as beneficial to your learning and development and enjoyment as possible. So on that note, we're also really interested to hear your thoughts on how these episodes have been going. I mean, this is the first one, so I'm sure there's a lot of things we can adjust and improve. But if you have any ideas, go ahead and let us know. Go to the Facebook group or find us on any of our social media sites, which I will include at the end of this video, so you can find us easily and talk to us. So if you have any ideas, don't be shy, because if one person says something that allows us to improve this a little bit, then everybody who watches it benefits. Alright, so to all the people who have already submitted their stuff, we want to thank you for giving us your trust, and we'll definitely try our best to make something good come out of it. And to all the other people who want to submit but are not sure, don't worry about it. I mean, everyone has got to show their art to other people eventually, and if you send it to us here, then maybe it'll end up, being helpful to many people. So it could be a good thing. And because we're talking about art principles, which is something that you can apply, across the board, not just to the person whose work is being reviewed, but to almost any artist who's doing a similar enough genre of work. So if you see that your work is not being reviewed, I would still say you could probably learn something from watching the episodes that are about somebody else's drawing. And that is what we're trying to do, to make something that's potentially helpful to a lot of people. So if you do end up applying some of these principles or following along with these exercises, maybe incorporating them into your existing regime or starting a new exercise regime if you don't already have one, then we'd love to see your progress. Post your stuff, go to our Facebook group or even our Discord channel, where we have set up for our Patreon supporters, but everyone else is also welcome to come in and hang out and talk to us, ask questions. We like to talk to people who have similar interests, so don't be shy. On a side note, this episode happens to be by me, and some of the future episodes might be from either me or Valentina, depending on who has something to say about the subject, or maybe even both of us. I also want to thank my friend Noblonsky, who provides all the amazing music for our videos and live streams. So if you like the music, go check him out. I'll include a link in the description. And if you are interested in exploring this topic of action line and harmony, and actually much more, there are two books I highly recommend. One is by Ryan Woodward, whose pictures we were looking at in the beginning. It's called Gesture Drawing Volume 3. And the other one is by Walt Stanchfield, a veteran Disney artist. He has a book called Drawn to Life that is quite amazing and full of information. And here is our Facebook page, where you can find everything related to Artspresso. It's also where you can post your drawings for review and any exercises that you do end up doing. And lastly, here is our social media websites and links where you can follow us. And that's it for the first episode. I'm Z, see you in the next one.